So one of the really common sort of oxymoronic phenomena that we see in American politics is that the people that you sometimes see most loudly shouting about how the Constitution says I get to do something, or the Constitution says you don't get to do something, or you don't get to force me to do something. The people most loudly shouting that type of stuff are often the people who least understand the Constitution. We've seen this with free speech. We've talked to First Amendment experts about how the people most loudly and most frequently yelling about free speech and the First Amendment actually don't understand it. In the COVID era, in the pandemic era, that same constitutional confusion, as we might call it, applies to vaccination very, very analogously. And more, we're hearing that, listen, it's in the Constitution. You don't have to get vaccinated if you don't want to. You can't violate my constitutional rights by forcing me to get vaccinated. We hear that any vaccine mandate would be a violation of your constitutional rights. And this actually couldn't be more wrong. Now, I want to be really clear, because sometimes when we do a conversation like this, people wrongly think I'm saying something that I'm not actually saying. The issue of the legality of vaccine mandates in general by a government is a topic of much legal discussion, and there isn't 100% agreement about could the federal government mandate a vaccine versus would it have to be done at the state level, or whatever the case may be. But it is not a constitutional issue, period, and there's actually precedent, which we will talk about in a moment. So we can make a moral case for a vaccination requirement, but that's not actually what this is about. We could make a cultural or a public health case for a vaccination requirement. But again, that's not actually today's topic. There is no constitutional case against vaccine requirements. So let's go through the likely arguments that the anti-vaxxers would make along these grounds. They might say a vaccine mandate violates the First Amendment to the Constitution. They might say a vaccine mandate violates the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution. And sometimes they say a vaccine mandate would violate the 14th Amendment to the Constitution. Now, the First Amendment protects speech, the Fifth, religion, and the 14th, the right not to be, quote, deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. I don't believe any of these would hold up, but this is not a show where I give legal opinions I come up with, because legal is not my area of expertise. My assessment is just, what do the legal opinions say about exactly this issue? And I've told you before that in the early 20th century, there was a legal controversy over vaccine mandates, not dissimilar to the one we're seeing today. And it took place in Massachusetts, and it was surrounding smallpox. And the Supreme Court decided in 1905 against a guy who refused to get the smallpox vaccine. The Supreme Court decided that the state's vaccine requirement slash the city of Cambridge's vaccine requirement was perfectly fine, saying that your liberty stops at its likelihood to damage or do harm to other people. So it's actually a relatively simple concept, even in libertarian circles, sane libertarian circles. This is the case of Jacobson v. Massachusetts. You can Google the case. There's a very simple wiki article explaining what it's all about. So there is Supreme Court precedent for enforcing vaccine mandates. That ruling from 1905 has been referenced repeatedly, even in the COVID era by the Supreme Court. When vaccine requirements have been upheld, this 1905 case has been referenced. Now, in terms of speech generally, the government can prohibit behavior that is generally protected by the First Amendment if it is demonstrably to save lives, to preserve life. And the infamous kind of prototypical example is the government can ban yelling fire in a crowded theater, even though speaking and saying the word fire generally is protected speech. Speaking is protected speech. But this is a case where the government can actually say, you can't do that. And people might say, but sir, that's my free speech. That goes beyond free speech. It goes into public safety. And the fact that yelling fire in a crowded theater is likely, much like a ton of people refusing to get vaccinated, to have a predictable, deleterious, harmful effect on public health and on people. Now, there is another issue here, which I think I should mention, and it's the issue of hypocrisy. There is almost always hypocrisy from these right wingers. My body, my choice on the vaccine. Same with a woman's right to choose, right? No, no. That should be illegal. Wait a second. What? That's a double standard. And we'll talk tomorrow about what's going on with the Texas abortion law. And here, with the case of the vaccines, many of those opposing the vaccine mandates because it's government overreach had no problem with the Patriot Act, NDAA, mass surveillance, etc. The same people who have been fighting for decades for businesses to have all the power and the employees to have none suddenly want to take away the right of a business to say, hey, our business decision is that our employees have to be vaccinated. Our business decision, which conservatives have said for decades we should be able to make decisions that are best for us. Our decision is customers must be vaccinated. All of a sudden now they're against that. So yes, they're pathetic. Yes, they are hypocrites, but they're also wrong on the facts. And that's a unique combination: pathetic, hypocritical, and wrong on the facts. And on the constitutionality of vaccination mandates, you do not have a constitutional right not to get vaccinated. The details of vaccine mandates, if we see them, are going to be adjudicated, and we'll handle them one by one. But that blanket, it's almost used like a cudgel. That's a violation of the Constitution. Really? Which part of the Constitution or Bill of Rights? And the arguments very, very quickly fall apart. We'll have more on this, as I assume, I expect, maybe is a better way to say it. I expect that there will be more legal decisions about vaccination requirements and mandates upcoming. One of our sponsors is SteadyMD Primary Care, the easier and more affordable way to do primary care. And they're giving you 50% off because you are in my audience. You just answer a few questions. SteadyMD will match you with a licensed primary care physician that's tailored to your needs. You'll have a 1-hour virtual appointment and start a meaningful relationship with your new doctor. And from then on, your doctor will be available to you by text, phone, and video chat. It's not some random doctor on call. Your SteadyMD doctor has a limited number of patients. You get the attention you deserve, and they can help you with anything your primary care doc normally would. It's very cool how it works. You don't need insurance. It's just $99 a month, no other fees or copays for visits. Take the free quiz and see which doctor is a perfect fit for you. You'll get 50% off your first month when you go to steadymd.com/Pakman. No risk, no long-term commitment. The link is right underneath the video.